We'll have you come in. We'll have you introduce yourself a little bit, who you are, and then we'll just start. We'll start rapping.
Let's be super clear. I'm not going to buy anything. We can have this chat, but I'm not going to buy anything.
You say that now. Just wait.
It's just a short presentation on the timeshare. That's all.
That's right. And if you call now,
you'll get a free SharePoint monkey. So there we go.
Wow.
Welcome to Power Platform Connections, where we interview amazing contributors of the community and take a look at the incredible work that you've all been doing through blogs, videos, and articles over the past week. My name is David Warner. I'm a community program manager for Power Platform for Microsoft. And with me, my co-host.
My name is Hugo Bernier, and David and I share one brain to the two of us, and he has it today. So I'm having a hard time with this introduction. Our next guest is Vesa Juvonen. Vesa, tervetuloa.
That was Finnish as in welcome, so pretty good. So you have a connection to Finland, so that's really good. So
thank you.
You're speaking almost as good Finnish as I speak English, so it's okay.
All right. Well, Vesa, thank you for being our guest today on the show. Vesa is a principal product manager at Microsoft for OneDrive, SharePoint, Teams, all things community. We just call him Dear Vesa, and you can too. So why don't you introduce yourself a little bit to all of the guests that are watching right now?
Yeah, so Vesa Juvonen, Principal Product Manager from the Microsoft 365 platform areas. That's typically how I do my introduction. So we do work on numerous organizations, numerous efforts across all up in Microsoft 365 together with Power Platform, of course, because it's the better together story. As earlier today, we were chatting with one of my colleagues. It's basically Azure, Microsoft 365, and Power Platform, and yes, sure, GitHub, which is the Microsoft Cloud. So, and then, of course, all of those cloud bits and pieces work together, and that's why it's getting so connected. But a lot of time working on a community, social media, YouTube, open source. My job has always kind of been making, hopefully exposing the awesomeness what people are building. So.
Yeah, and we're going to talk all about that. So what we typically do, though, is start with a little personal because we want everybody to know Vesa. So when we're at these conferences coming up, they'll have maybe something new to talk about with you other than all the tech that we all love you for. So there's two things that I think was interesting from your profile that you provided us. One is you've gone on a pretty epic trip through Mongolia, right? So
yes.
Tell us a little bit about that trip.
Back in 2001, we did of course, Helsinki is in the eastern part of Europe. So back in the time, it was okay to travel through train in the neighbor countries as well. So we did a pretty awesome trip back in 2001, I guess. That's quite a long time ago. But from Helsinki to Moscow to Ulaanbaatar, stayed in Mongolia for like 3 or 5 days. So the countryside of Mongolia, which is absolutely mind-blowing. You're staying in a what are they called? On those tent yurts. Thank you. And then there's no electric lighting or anything, and you're watching the sky, which by the way looks completely different in Mongolia countryside than it looks in Helsinki, because the stars are differently aligned. But because there's no light pollution or anything, you can actually see gajillion stars. It's just absolutely mind-blowing. And from there, we did a continued trip to Beijing, stayed there. Then we flew to Bangkok, went to the typical island backpacking. And then at that point, I needed to go home. A few of my friends still continued to Australia, which was like, but long trip. So.
Wow, that's awesome. Yeah, I don't see that many stars out here in LA because of the light pollution. It's really just the stars on Hollywood Boulevard and the Walk of Fame and stuff. So different stars.
Almost the same thing. Yeah, absolutely.
Very close. Yeah, almost identical, actually. Yeah. So you're always sharing some fantastic stuff on social, and it's always walking with your dogs and kind of sharing a positive message. What inspired you to want to do and start sharing something like that on social media like Twitter and LinkedIn?
That's a really good question. I don't even know why, but it's more on actually showing the other side of us as well. So showing who you are, whether you do it for a living or what your normal life is also outside of the work, because that again gives us a bit more perspectives on where we are, and then when we see the people, there's something to talk about. So at some point I started. I think it's 3 to 4 times in a week. I'm pretty strict on the discipline on my posting and all of that, but it's just I live right next to a forest, so every single morning I'd go for a quick hike with our furry ladies, as I call them, our two collies, and then every now and then I'll randomly take a 30-second video and post it in Twitter and in Instagram, because of course our ladies have their own Instagram account.
Of course, yeah. All Finnish dogs do, right?
Yeah, of course, absolutely.
Yeah,
so.
Exactly. Now, and so I'm glad you brought that up because, so for all those that don't know, Vesa and Hugo and I go way back, and I'll let Hugo talk about this in a moment, because Vesa started a show called P&P Weekly with Waldek Mastercars, who does the exact same thing that we do here on Power Platform Connections, but for more the M365 side. So you've been a huge inspiration. I think it's an honor for Hugo and I to be able to have you on this show now, considering that really this show is based on what you've started. But Hugo, why don't you go into a little bit of history about how you and I started interfacing with Vesa, and so it gives us everybody a little bit of context that this is not just us randomly interviewing someone in the M365 side because maybe we were told to, but we have got a massive interest in the community together here, and it really started because of Vesa.
You and I, David, we were in the community, doing SharePoint stuff, pretty much individually on our own. But Vesa, it wasn't really until you started doing your regular community calls, and I think it was, where I started getting involved was when you started introducing SharePoint Framework, or the preview for SharePoint Framework, and you started having regular calls. And I think the important thing here was always that you were being consistent, that you were always giving people the opportunity to contribute, and you were always open to anybody in the community to do demos and things like that. So I remember the first time I had the opportunity to do a demo, it was very exciting. I
remember that as well.
So. We had Skype NATO.
What a world!
That's right. It was. I felt like I wasn't in Kansas anymore because my world was upside down.
A bit of a context. So
Yeah.
Skype NATO means a complete failure in Microsoft Skype at the time, which we're using for the community shows. So Hugo was a bit stressed, and your demo didn't go well because Skype on server side started having hiccups. So
not once, but twice, by the way.
That's true.
It was twice that happened. Weeks apart, not like in the same call.
Yes.
So Hugo started to think, maybe this is not the place for me.
I'm curious.
I don't know. Maybe this isn't the place for me. And then Vesa encouraged him, come back. We're going to make sure that we put you in a position of success. That was just an anomaly. But Vesa, that is really speaking to how you kind of approach community, right? What are some of the tenets that make community important to you, and the things that you try to ensure that you instill others to know about how welcome they are?
So originally, when we started the initiative, which has been renamed multiple times and all of that, but basic sharing is caring mentality is there still. It started from the thinking of, hey, why do all of the consultants, this is first an internal thing, why would all of the internal consultants in Microsoft would reinvent the wheel time after time as they go to the customers and they work on exactly the same projects, exactly the same things. And then luckily we were able to get it external. So as we were able to then share a lot of the learnings and samples and all of that externally to be available for our partner ecosystem and for customers on, hey, we have a typical challenge. And if 5 or 2 or 10 or 20 or 200 customers or partners have the same challenge, why wouldn't we have something which we can reuse and give that to everybody so that we can kind of collectively increase the common knowledge of the community? And therefore, we no longer focus on the baseline, or let's say if think about the community and technology as a pyramid, we don't need to worry about the baseline. We can go one step up as a community as we keep on sharing those learnings, and the common knowledge is getting higher and higher, which increases the abstraction in certain level as well, if you think about abstraction of technology as well. But it makes people more successful. And then as we make other people successful, it increases the success of the product, it increases the success of customers, it increases the success of everybody. So for me, it's been more like natively at some point, it was just a natural thing to start sharing learnings and stuff which I've written within the customer projects with the permissions of course. So having that option to share those code and then getting that available for everybody else. And as we started doing that quite fast, it was obvious that there was a lot of people who would consume those samples, but also start contributing back and saying, hey, what about if we were to do this? Yeah, absolutely, let's do that. Oh, even better, what if we would do this? And that is, again, coming back on the increasing the common knowledge of the community. So having this kind of a shared knowledge base almost across the community members, rather than your independent, isolated, no, I'm not going to share anything with anybody.
Yeah, well, and what's powerful about that is that oftentimes in a, I don't know, corporate world or whatever, you might be told don't share, right? Because now you're going to be able to share with others, and they'll make you obsolete, right? Or you won't be as in demand. But I think what we've proven with this model of sharing is caring, we're open to everybody, is that 2 heads are better than 1, 3 better than 2. What have we seen happen, or what have you seen happen, I should say, by us having this more wide open model? Everyone can work with everyone. You can improve upon what someone else built and or work together with them.
I think the biggest advantages is by far the agility and how lean and how fast and the unlimited resources technically which we have for a lot of the projects which we are executing. So there's multiple things what we do within the community area. There's certain open source projects which we have been building up for years, and there's tens and tens of people contributing every single year, even every single month on those projects, because they're using the project within their work or within their project, within their deliverables and all of that. And then there's the community calls and community side and exposing or having that podium for others to showcase that what they built, so that other people can again learn from them, and giving them the option to learn how to present and how to be better, how to learn to speak or present, even in pronunciation comes with the practice. Having those opportunities is super important. So a simple example on my case, when I started doing the videos, the first videos in YouTube, like 2013 maybe, I don't know, 2014. Sure, the pronunciation and there was an accent and there was something which people could actually hear that, of course, it's not Oxford English. But for me, it's always been about the content and sharing the knowledge and sharing the wisdom. And in my case, what actually happened, and this a bit of a sad thing and it's historical thing and it's okay, but there was a bullying effect. So there was unfortunately, even an MVP, which typically would be super rare, but there was a person who openly attacked, wrote a blog post that why is this person from Microsoft sharing his knowledge or videos in YouTube within the bad English? And it's like, well, why would it matter? I'm still sharing my knowledge. I'm sharing my experiences for others to benefit. And that turned out to be, as it was basically, no, you're wrong. Anybody should be able to have that opportunity, and that turned out to be a kind of a stronger event for the community all up. There was a lot of people then from Microsoft, other MVPs, and all of that who jumped on the reaction, which was the right thing to do, because we should never. Yep. Whoever is brave enough to do videos in YouTube, it's awesome. It's not like everybody can do that. In this particular case, that person hadn't done it, as an example. So, and small accent. Guess what? Everybody has an accent. So
Yep. I think it's little things like that help encourage us to want to make sure that we're helping others, right? So I'm sure that helps solidify your area of empowerment and encouragement to others. I think I had something similar. I had someone tell me on one of my videos when I started out, you should really get someone else to do the voiceover for you. And I was like, my last name's Warner, but it's not Warner Brothers. I don't have a studio. This is just me, a dude in his office.
Exactly.
Sorry.
Exactly.
Maybe Tom Cruise is available. But it allows us to be more aware of ensuring that others are encouraging. You do a great job. What continues to drive you there to provide that inspiration for others, that encouragement for others? And then what do you find valuable when you see them succeeding out of their shell?
For me, if we go to the human level, we all need acceptance. We all need to have something which gives us the good feel and basically being part of something bigger. And some people find it somewhere else. Some people might find it from the community side. So trying to make sure that everybody feels welcome and empowered and supported on through whatever Sharing is Caring initiative, as an example, where we want to help people to get outside of their shells. That's exactly what I want to do. That helps the world to be a better place, quite simply. And it really goes down to the level of every single, even small like in the Twitter can change the world. It's just wild when you think about it, because the one person who created the one video in YouTube, if there's one comment, you add a comment there and say, thank you, this was really awesome. You showed me something what I didn't know. That could trigger, and quite often that will trigger actually additional set of videos, additional content, additional energy, additional positivity within the world. So it's really that pass it forward. Is that the right way of saying that? I always forget about it.
Pay it forward.
Passing that pay forward. Thank you. Pay forward. That is a great movie. I just love that. But you basically pay forward the goodwill for our other person, and that then amplifies the positivity and amplifies the positive energy, what we can actually do together.
You've also never been afraid of kind of pushing the boundaries, and you've never made it about yourself. You've always made it about other people. I mean, I think my favorite example of this is when I first approached you about the sample galleries. It was like, hey, I have an idea on how we can improve the sample gallery, and it could look like this, right? And I sent you screenshots and all sorts of, like, probably a 17-page long email about what I thought we should do. And you never, said, hey, bugger off, you're unknown person. Yeah, you actually said, hey, it sounds like a great idea. I'm going to have my team look into it. I messaged you a few months later. I messaged you and I said, hey, I put together this sample over the weekend. It's not ready for prime time, but, this is what I was thinking of. And you messaged me immediately, and they're like, hey, let's meet on Monday. Let's talk about this. And on that day,
was probably during weekend even, which is a bad thing, you just word of a warning, you should not work necessarily during weekends, but anyway. So
but you could have easily said, hey, back off, I'm Microsoft, don't talk to me, or but no, that's not what you said. You say, hey, this is great, and why don't we put forward what you've put together? Right, let's make it live right now. And I was like, no, it's not ready. It's not ready. You're like, yeah, we can improve it. We can make it live, and we can improve it. And that's what we did. We really quickly turned around, and you definitely gave me the opportunity to contribute in the community. You gave me an opportunity to feel like I had a place and I had a voice, and you've done this for many people in the community. And I think that's great, because it's about giving other people the opportunity to grow and the opportunity to contribute, and never making it about yourself first.
So if we're among friends right now, right? So there's nobody else is going to hear. But technically, my mental world is more on, I've overachieved every other thing what I've never could have dreamed of at the age of whatever, 12 or 13. So it's never about me anymore at this point. It's just it's cool that we can help other people. I don't need, I don't need that exposure. If we can help other people to get exposed and them to grow the CEOs of Microsoft, that's awesome. That's really, really good. And we're using that energy then to empower the right people and other people. I don't need to be a CEO of Microsoft, so never been not interested on that.
I like though. Well, that's actually, now that you bring it up, we were gonna ask you, but since you don't want it, I guess. Never mind.
Awkward.
Yeah, this is awkward. No. I like what you said about the power of positivity and the power of even simply just liking or retweeting, right? I mean, so a little exposure moment for me. I remember when I just started contributing to the community, doing videos and all that, and I posted something on Twitter, and then I saw you. I'm going to admit something here. I saw you retweeting and liking other people's, and so I'm like, oh, he probably didn't see mine. So I deleted my tweet and I retweeted using a hashtag that I knew you were looking for, and then you liked it and retweeted. And I mean, the truth is that it put me on cloud nine all day. Right? I was super excited. I think that that's something everyone can do. You don't have to be a principal product manager. You don't have to be at Microsoft. That is a contribution in and of itself. If you're not creating videos or articles, but you're passionate about the technology, go retweet. That can make someone else's day, and that's a contribution.
And the more people we actually pay forward, we have this massive, let's say, wave or tsunami of positivity going forward through the ecosystem, because I like you like another person, and it amplifies as we go through the ecosystem, and that has an impact. It has a life-changing impact for a lot of people, and then the coolest thing ever about the social media and let's say the likes in LinkedIn or Twitter is that it's global. Everybody can do that. There's this awesome blog articles nowadays. With the technology, it's even easier, because you can actually go and double check somebody has written something in Japanese, and you'll do translate. Oh, this is really cool, and like, and of course you want to give them the feeling that people are appreciating the work what they do. So it's not about in English. It's not about it's a global reach, which is absolutely brilliant as well.
Yeah, I always joke, and you hear me say this all the time, the sun never sets on the community, because we are a global community. It's always on somewhere around the world. And of course, we all talk with each other at crazy hours of the day and night because we are passionate about it. But it's true. It's never setting, because it's always on. So
yeah. So the sun doesn't set in the community, David. It's not because you wouldn't be sleeping. So you need to learn that.
Right. What? I'm never going to sleep again.
So Vesa, you, David, and I are going to be speaking together at the Microsoft 365 conference in Vegas in May, aren't we?
Yes, we're gonna. So three of us will be working in the Microsoft 365 conference in Las Vegas, starting from 13th of April, if I remember correctly, and that's the official. The conference is from 2nd to 4th, I think.
In May,
if I remember correctly.
In May.
Yes, in May. And then the pre-day workshop starts on Sunday, 13th of April. And then there's a pre-day on Monday, 1st of May as well, which I just realized that is a public holiday in Finland. But apparently I'll be hanging with you guys, and we're going to deliver our workshops, which is okay.
Woo. So we also have a session right together on the community, actually.
Yes, we do have a session on I can't remember which day, but throughout the conference days, we have to have a session where all of us three are explaining what is the Microsoft 365 and Power Platform community. So what's available, what are the tooling capabilities, reach, and the calls, which is a great way of getting exposure for people who would like to be an MVP, or they would like to practice their presentation, or they would like to show what they built for the community. So we will go through all of those things, different options with cool demos within the session.
Absolutely. And really, it's going to span not just M365, but Power Platform as well. I mean, You'll notice a lot of what Vesa has been describing, we are applying on the Power Platform side, because really it's agnostic, right? It doesn't really need to be just tied to a single technology or any industry. And really what we're talking about here that Vesa has led the charge for in so many ways is just empowering people, encouraging people, inspiring people, and recognizing them. So
yeah,
excellent.
And if we think about Dynamics, if we think about Azure, if we think about GitHub, if we think about Power Platform, it's still people. It's the same technology. We're building things. We're exposing, let's say, Viva Sales is a great example. We are putting the Dynamics and the business application directly in Microsoft Teams, using the technology which is available for all of the developers as well. And then we use the Azure technologies behind the scenes. We do development in GitHub. So it's a big Microsoft cloud rather than putting ourselves in the silos. And it's so easy to put yourself in a silo. Quite often, actually, you put yourself in a silo because the 24 hours in a day isn't enough to understand all of the things in the other side. But that doesn't mean that we wouldn't respect the other sides, which we're not actually actively involved, because we're still building stuff in the Microsoft cloud and sharing with the community.
And of course, hashtag sharing is caring, and better together, and all that. But I joke, but that's the truth, right? I mean, really, people tend to think that, Microsoft ships their org charts, and sometimes they do. But we understand that the technology needs to work together, and that's really when it's best used.
What about someone who's starting in the community and they feel they have something to say, but they don't feel they have a voice? What would be some advice you'd like to give them?
Depending on what they want to say. No, just no. So I would always start by joining on the community calls, because again, the community calls is a great way of engaging directly in the chat with other people in the community who are actively in the community calls. So some of the community calls have up to 600 attendees during that 1 hour time. Some, technically the range is from 250 to 600 or 700, which is pretty mind-blowing. But the thing is that within those calls, you get that first reaction on the other people who are actively involved. Then we have the community days org if you want to go in person. So a smaller events all around the world locally within the individual cities. It's a great way of engaging and meeting people and going to those, let's say, Microsoft 365 Saturdays, which are typically nowadays more and more on Fridays, which is great because weekend should be family time and priorities. But having that step out of the shell of making that first, joining on the call, making a funny joke, or adding a comment on a chat, liking things, engaging in social media, that would be first step. And then gradually feeling more confident on contributing maybe in the GitHub or samples, or maybe in a community call demo, signing up for those. We do have great people called Hugo and David and a few others who are helping even on preparing on the community calls. So making sure that people feel comfortable enough on remotely presenting. The cool thing about the community calls also is that it's a great way of getting that confidence in place to present before you actually go potentially in person, because there is there's a bit of a, let's say, there is a change still on going remotely and doing this remotely, because now I'm talking to a camera. It's rather than talking to a 500 people or 2,000 people or whatever it is, the audience size, or 20 people even, because that reaction is different.
Yep.
But absolutely. There's so many channels that people get started, and it's just a matter of taking that one step forward. And yes, I'm going to start doing this.
So Vesa, you have a weekly episode that we heavily borrowed from to create this Power Platform Connections, but yours is called PNP Weekly. Do you mind talking about PNP Weekly for people who are maybe looking for a cool show to watch?
So we're doing it's not just watching, it's also a podcast, which I highly recommend. That the goofiness doesn't actually translate that much through podcast necessarily, but it's BNP Weekly is something which I started, I can't remember even which year, but it's now in episode 204, was just recorded earlier today. And basic idea is that we always have a visitor, typically have a visitor, and then we go through the latest articles from Microsoft and community within the call. So calling out the awesome contributions and writers and videos which are available across the Microsoft Cloud, really, because we talk about Power Platform there as well, not necessarily exclusively Power Platform, but also on that one as well. So it's just a way of exposing what's happening, and then having a 1 hour booking where we talk about the latest from Microsoft, from community, with the interview with a person who's joining, almost like this show, having an interview with somebody.
I wonder where we came up with it. We borrowed it.
Yeah. But now, to be fair, I think one of the suggestions, I need to call this out, because that was originally Chris Kent's suggestion and an idea. Basically, Chris said, what could we do to even further extend the exposure of the community members? So would there be a way of doing something consistently and then sharing the community awesomeness? Like, people write so cool stuff in the blog post and do cool videos and all of that stuff. So anything what we can do to expose that. And I guess we started, I'm quickly thinking back, like 5 to 6 years ago with the PNP Weekly originally.
Thank you, Vesa, for spending time with us today. You've certainly been an inspiration for Hugo and I throughout the years. Thank you for encouraging us and all the others in the community. Really appreciate you taking time out of your day and evening, in fact, to spend time with us on the show today.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. Really cool.
Thank you for being here.
All right, everybody, the time has come for us to review all the amazing articles, blogs, videos, contributions that you've made and tagged this last week. And if you're sitting at home thinking, well, how can mine get included? All you need to do is tag your Twitter and LinkedIn post with the hashtag Power Platform Connects. We will scour everything and pull it together and review it and include it in our show. So thank you for those that did that. Hugo, what do you got for us this week?
Awesome. Thank you, David. Well, the first article is by Troy Taylor, and I hesitated here. It's not really an article. It's a pull request from GitHub by Troy Taylor. So Troy Taylor has written a lot of independent published connectors for our Power Platform. And so this is one for Zapier NLA. And so Zapier is an online platform that really helps you automate workflows by connecting apps and services, pretty much like you would do with Power Automate. But one of the things that the Zapier allows you to do is it allows you to link different web applications and then really transfer data and really kind of automate your processes. One of the cool things about this connector though is it uses Zapier NLA, and NLA is natural language actions. So you can actually integrate cross communications and really like natural language to automate tasks outside of a chatbot. And so with this integration, you'll have access to all the Zapier's, there's like 5,000 or plus applications and over 20,000 actions through a natural language API interface.
I love these independent publisher connectors because it's so much opportunity for others to get involved and work together. Great job here, Troy. And we know there's so many other independent publishers that are putting together these connectors. So keep up the great work. Let us know when you do. We'd love to highlight them.
Yes, and one thing we should point out is once a connector has been approved, it onboards onto the next deployment schedule. And so that means that it should start showing up in environments typically within 3 to 4 weeks that it's been onboarded. So by the time this records, it should be or this shows on YouTube, this should be 2 to 3 weeks. Our next article is by Geetha, and Geetha, last time we spoke, she had some productivity tips based on the Power Automate templates. And so she continues with 3 new productivity tips. So if you want to really stay on top of things like your calendars, important upcoming meetings, and messages, you can use the Power Automate templates. And so the one template that she uses is if you're not feeling well, you can really block your day and notify your peers with a single tap. Again, that's a template you can use in Power Automate and just build it really quickly. The second one is to really create a OneNote page from an upcoming event. I love that template because I use something very similar to always have a place to write my notes when I prepare for a meeting. And I have it automatically scanning through my calendar. So this template allows you to do something very similar to that. And the third tip from Geetha is to find a meeting time with a Teams message. And so this is a great way, again, to use the cloud to book the best available slot with a sender via the workflow menu in the Teams message. And again, these are all great templates you can use. Thank you, Geetha, for showing us these articles or these templates.
Yeah, these are really, really cool, right? I think because we're all in such a fast-paced world, and having just a little, snack-sized piece of information to consume on the go and give us something to think about and put to work in our life. It's kind of like life hacks, right? So great job, Keith. I really love these. These are really cool.
Our next post is by Michael Magel. He talks about extracting IDs as arrays in Power Automate. And so Michael had a requirement. He wanted to share a solution that he recently discovered in Power Automate and Logic Apps. So it's a very simple and yet powerful technique that allows you to extract IDs from a JSON object and convert them to an array. So for example, what Michael had was a standard JSON structure that contained IDs with a number, and he really what he needed to do was to actually convert these IDs into a simple array like this. So 1, 2, 3. And so he used a select action in the data operations, and he switched to the map into text mode. And he was able to transform the complex data and create an array of numbers containing all the extracted IDs.
This is really, really cool because I know I've had to use this and do this a few times before, and not really ashamed to say that it was a more complex process. My interaction with JSON included a chainsaw and a hockey mask and all that, so it's not as fun. But great job here, Michael. This is a really cool use of the technology, and great to see you sharing it with the world.
Natalie Linders has sent us an article called Setting Restrictive Security on the Word Template While Leaving Sections Open. So in Word, you can create templates, and you may have portions of the document that you really don't want people to edit in your template. So for example, think of a legal document where maybe you only want to be able to edit the party names. You don't want people to edit the contract part of the document. But sometimes you need entire sections of your document to be editable and other sections not to be editable. So for example, let's say you're building a automated proposal template. And so that's really what Natalie shows how to do there. So she's using section breaks, not page breaks. And so section breaks allows you to create, well, sections inside your Word document without inserting a new page. And so that allows you to have, let's say, a paragraph that is templated text that you don't want to change. And then you just below that, you can have a whole section that you can allow people to update in your template.
Yeah, what's cool is once you create this template, you could also start creating and setting up additional automation behind it, right? So it allows you to start building on top of it. And you had talked about it being edible. I love when my Word templates taste like chocolates and cherries, but editable. Never mind. Sorry, this is awkward. Please carry on, Hugo.
I have a hard time with that word. Maybe because I'm always thinking about food. All right, the next one is by Ritesh Ranjan Chobi. He's written about contemplating the best business automation tool sets. And so he's done a lot of research on this topic based on his customer connects and research from the market. And he says he's written this article based on his perspective and his learnings, and where he's compared, Power Automate, UiPath, Blue Prism, and he says that his content is solely based on that research. It's not influenced or sponsored at all. Of course, we're happy to see that his conclusion was that Power Automate for him was the clear winner to jumpstart a project with low budget, easy integration. At the same time, having the scalability and the ability really to expand. If you think about Power Automate, is relatively new compared to these beasts. And one of the things that he looked at is the Gartner Magic Quadrant, where you see that Power Automate in no time has really secured its spot as one of the leaders in the Magic Quadrant. Overall, though, the choice between using Power Automate, UiPath, and Blue Prism really depends on your specific business needs, agility, budget, and development resources. And all these platforms can be really effective tools for automating your business processes, but they do have different pricing models, incentives, and flexibilities, and that's important. One of the things that we need to think about when you buy any piece of software is the total cost of ownership, right? The price tag is not the only thing to consider. There's all sorts of other things like the learning curve and things like that. And so it was a great article by Ritesh. Thank you, Ritesh. And in fact, we were so pleased with Ritesh's article that we found another article that Ritesh tagged us on, which is Power Platform Governance, Importance, and Relevance. It is really important to consider governance in Power Platform, right? If you think about it, we're allowing makers to create applications, and the last thing we want to do is we want to start building a shadow IT where everyone's just creating apps ad hoc. We do want to establish some kind of governance to make sure that your organization's data is secure and that your solutions are compliant with your company policies, and that everyone that needs to have access has the appropriate level of access to resources. So Ritesh talks about kind of the several key areas to consider. So security, data management, solution management, user management, and monitoring and reporting. And so by establishing these effective governance practices, you can really make sure that your Power App solutions are secure, that they're compliant, and they're well managed.
And if you call now, you'll get not one, but 2 articles on governance and total cost of ownership, which I imagine he's your new best friend, Hugo, because I know how much you love governance and total cost of ownership. So, Ritesh, you definitely have won the heart of Hugo.
Now we have a huge update by Clay Wisner, who's a partner in GPM in the Power Apps Studio. He's got an article called What's New Power Apps March 2023 Feature Update. And there's lots of new features, so let's go through it quickly. The first thing is the customer management key, and that's something that's being rolled out for public preview it was starting March 1st. So one of the things we have to consider is encryption. When we store data, right, encryption is one of the several ways that you can do defense in depth, right? It allows you to store your data securely and make sure that when your data at rest is encrypted. Now, all the customer data and configuration information stored in the Power Platform is always encrypted at rest using the strong Microsoft managed encryption keys. However, this new customer managed key feature, it's hard to say, it really provides added data protection controls because it allows the customers to actually manage their own encryption keys. And so with these managed encryption keys, when they're used, you can make sure that all your business critical data is encrypted with your own user provided Azure Key Vault key. And that even allows our customers to be able to rotate and swap the encryption key on demand. It also allows customers to revoke Microsoft access to sensitive information at any time. And that's huge. The other cool feature that's been announced is the general availability and creating custom security roles for your model-driven apps using the app opener security role. As more people build Power Apps, there's more and more demand for new security roles within their apps. And normally, to run a model-driven app, there's a set of minimum privileges that you need. And these privileges are now actually shipped in a security role that we called App Opener. And it will replace the minimum privilege app use role that you got from the Download Center. Now, you can actually create your custom security roles for your model-driven app by copying the app opener role and customize it to suit your own needs. So this is a great way to make it easy to share things moving forward. We've got more. So the first thing is the ability for you to build an app using natural language using Copilot for Power Apps. So again, all the cool AI stuff that we've been using, all the cool AI technology, we're bringing this to the very first step in our application development, which is really getting started with building your app. So your developers are now able to build their business apps through a really intuitive natural language conversation with Copilot within Power Apps. And so that allows makers to start creating an app with just a few words in natural language. So imagine you just describe, and then you watch Power Apps instantly generate the application, and it will even complete your data table and your backend logic. So I really love it, right? Imagine describing it, and then Power App builds it. Also, making Dataverse available for all makers. So working in Dataverse is really now becoming easier with the developer environment that comes with premium capabilities like Dataverse without any additional cost. And so you can actually work on Power Platform using Dataverse for building applications where you can really now work with your table building, your relationship modeling in Canvas applications. And then you can leverage model-driven applications. You can build virtual tables. You can use Power FX, formulas, columns, application lifecycle, and so much more, right? And the developer environment is a great place for you to build and run apps in Dataverse in your own personal space without really restrictions. And then eventually the ability for you to share and deploy into production development environment. And that's a much better way than to everyone building things in the default environment, which is really intended for personal productivity. So now all the developer environments honor all the tenant data loss prevention policies. And so therefore, it's a secure place for makers to start their experience while making sure that we're honoring the organization's policies. And so you can actually get your developer environment through the Power Platform Admin Center or the Maker Portal, which is something that's currently in public preview. But wait, there's more. We have a new experimental PowerFX formula bar in Studio. So the new Studio formula editor is something that is available as an experimental feature. So you have to turn it on and use it starting today. But the new editor is based on the Monaco editor, which allows you to really provide a better performance, consistent editing experience across all the Studio, and having like an improved error highlighting, code highlighting, and so on and so forth. And behind the scenes, this is a change that will allow all the editors to be standardized, and it will really bring in some of the important architecture groundwork for many feature improvements that are coming in the future for PowerFX editing within the Visual Studio.
Well, Monaco editor is the same editor that's used in VS Code, right? So you're getting that real development experience there in right there in line.
Absolutely. It's going to be super awesome. I love it. I love how we're building pro developer tools in a low-code, no-code platform. But that's really kind of the experience that we're looking for here, to have that same rich experience, even though it's really targeted for the makers.
Yep.
We can also streamline collaboration in a modern app designer using comments, and that's now generally available. So Power Apps has been really a really useful tool for creating custom applications. And what we've heard from customers requesting more and more features to help teams work together to build apps. And so in the past, we released a preview of the comments in the modern app designer to allow people in a team to be able to communicate among each other. But one of the latest updates that we're really excited to share is that the comment feature in the modern app designer is now generally available. And so what that means is you can actually, just like you would do in a Word document or in a PowerPoint document, you can actually go in and makers can actually add comments in their apps. And so that allows people who are working on that same app, and maybe Fusion teams, to really build better model-driven apps by communicating with each other. So you can select any item on the page, and then you can select the comment button on the command bar, and you can open the comments pane on the right to actually start adding comments, and you can read existing comments to other collaborators. And of course, that means that you can also tag others to make sure that specific team members can see the comment. And that's going to allow makers to really keep track of feedback and suggestions easily because comments are stored within the apps and they can easily be accessed by anyone who's got access to it. And this is particularly useful for remote teams or teams that work across different time zones.
Yeah, this is a really cool feature because it allows in-product collaboration, right? So now you can tell me all the things that I did wrong there too, Hugo.
I'd never do that.
No, of course not.
One of the other things we've talked about Copilot, to help people build applications, but you can actually add Copilot within your Power Apps. So with the Copilot control in Power Apps, your makers can really give users the ability, so people who are actually using the app, to get intelligent insights about the data in their apps through just a conversational chat experience. So your users can use natural language, they can create queries, they can refine their analysis, and it's all with the help of the AI assistant that's going to be embedded directly into your app. And so that means whether you simply need to understand changes in inventory or estimate an average time to complete a task, or explore which of the campaigns drove the most revenue, the Copilot control is always going to be there to listen, to analyze, and report. And that's going to be fantastic. We also have new modern controls in Canvas apps. And so in the past, we've announced the preview release of modern controls in Canvas apps. And so now in this public preview, we're really releasing the first wave of, 13 different controls that will allow our makers to build well-designed apps out of the box. And so these controls are based on the Microsoft Fluent Design System, which is the look and feel that you see within Microsoft 365, within all the Microsoft websites and so on. And so it really powers the majority of the Microsoft experiences across all the products, like, again, Microsoft Teams and Word and so on. So that's going to allow you to build applications that look like they were first-party applications. They look like they were built by Microsoft. And we're far from being done here. We still have a whole bunch of controls to add. But you can do things like control the styling on each control. We leverage a new theming system. We're going to add a lot more control, and we're going to improve the authoring and control experiences. And so you can enable all the new controls in the Power App Studio by enabling Try Out Modern Controls flag in the settings and upcoming features. We can also make it easier to really digitally transform your physical workflows by turning all the devices that you already have into cost-efficient scanning tools, right? So using the new barcode control or the barcode reader control to quickly and accurately scan barcodes on your Android and iOS devices. It doesn't matter if you're on the factory floor, in a warehouse, in a retail store, the barcode reader is going to really give a better user experience, showing the things like the history of what's been scanned and what's currently detected, as well as a broader range of supported code types. And so you can try this out by just adding the control from the media section in the insert pane. We're also announcing the general availability of the tenant switcher in the Power Apps mobile app. So the tenant switcher allows users to actually easily access the apps that have been shared with them in different directories. So you don't have to log in and log out of your Power Apps mobile app to switch directories. You can just specify the directory you want to work in from a list of directories in the profile page. We can also now create native mobile apps with Wrap for Power Apps Wizard. And that's in public preview. So you can actually turn your Power App apps into a native mobile app and really use the wizard to actually make a native mobile version of your web Canvas apps for Android and iOS. And so you can actually digitally sign them and distribute them to your end users. And you can actually distribute these apps wrapped again in a native mobile app through Microsoft Intune, Microsoft App Center. You can use a Google Play Store, your Apple Business Manager, or any other custom distribution methods that your organization uses. So this is fantastic, again, because you are really building a native mobile app for iOS, Android, Google Play Store. And I can't wait to see how people are going to start using their Power Apps and turning them into native mobile apps for their device.
Yeah, this is going to be a very cool feature. And I got to say, that is a lot of updates, right? I mean, that is a lot. I don't know. Am I the only one that when I read the title there, What's New in Power Apps, started hearing it sung to me by Tom Jones, right? What's new, Power Apps? Whoa, 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 whoa. All right, what's next?
Yeah, so we also have a few updates for the Power Apps on Windows Update. That's by Tristan de Hove, where maybe people don't know this, but we actually have Power Apps on Windows since June 2022. And so you can actually have your apps installed on Windows, and you can take advantage of advanced device capabilities and things like offline support from your PC or your tablet. And so we've recently added some new features. And so 2 new settings. One is when the device is not connected to the network, you can actually only see the apps that are installed on their device to work offline. And the other thing is when you have multiple organizations, we just talked about the ability to switch organizations. So when you have multiple organizations on the user's tenant, it's actually really super easy for you to see the apps that are related to that specific organization instead of seeing every single app that you've ever used. So this is now possible through the environment filters right on the settings menu. The other thing that we've added is recently pinned apps, so you can see all your recently used apps and your favorite apps in the jump list for your Power Apps. So that's the thing that's available directly from the taskbar in Windows. And so you can right-click on the Power App icon on the taskbar, and you'll see all the recent apps right away. And again, you can pin them so you can go to them really quickly. We've also added the ability for you to switch the camera in the QR code scanner. The QR code scanner control was available for a while in Canvas and Model Apps, but now you can actually select which camera you can use to read the QR code. And that's as someone who has multiple cameras on his devices, I'm super happy about this new feature. And then switching directories, we've talked about this, but now you can actually switch directories directly from the accounts menu in Power Apps. And so again, you'll see all the directories that the users belong to, pick the one they want to work in, and then the list of apps will be filtered and refreshed automatically. And finally, the file and image columns now work in offline model-driven apps. So Power Apps for Windows now supports the file and image column types. And in the past, if you wanted to work offline with those types of fields, you couldn't do that. But now in your offline profile, it'll download the images and the files to your Windows device, and then they will be available for you to access them. And if you upload them, when you connect, they will be uploaded to Dataverse. we have an article by Dion Taylor, which is Building Your Virtual Agent Topics with GPT. This is a great article. Again, Microsoft Copilot is a new product that allows end users to be more productive, allowing them to provide personalized assistance and support within the Microsoft 365 suite of applications. So in this article, Dion explains how to build your Power Virtual Agent topics using GPT. I strongly recommend you take a read. And finally, last but not least, we have a new series of articles by Kat Schneider. She calls them TNT, Tips and Tricks. And this latest tips and trick is to use multi-cursor editing. If you remember on a earlier update today, we talked about how we can now use the Monaco editor, which is the same thing as Visual Studio Code, to edit your formulas in the Power Effects formula bar. Well, because it uses the Monaco editor, you can actually use a lot of the cool features. In this case, it's the multi-cursor editing. If you have to update something in more than one place, you could, of course, click and edit every single entry. But what Kat does here, she uses the Alt key to actually select, place a cursor in multiple places. So she uses Alt in front of the places that she wants to update, and then she just types once, and it updates everywhere her cursor is. It's very powerful functionality, and we're going to see a lot more cool functionality like that coming up in the formula bar.
All right, everybody. Well, this was a jam-packed episode. We had a talk with Vesa, who was the inspiration for this particular show that you are watching now. So we want to thank him, and definitely check out his weekly session as well with Waldick. You will definitely love it, as there's tons of overlap there within M365 and Power Platform. Thank you, everyone, for sharing your content with us. We know that there was a lot of info in this one, but it's so valuable to be able to get it all in one place. So if you'd like us to consider your articles, blogs, or videos in the future, all you got to do, Power Platform Connects, use that hashtag right down there, and we'll make sure that we get it included. There's also one more way that you can get included. Hugo, tell us about that.
You can go to aka.ms/join the community to join the Power Users community. And there you can help people with answering questions. You can ask questions. And it's just the best place, really, to get all your information on what's happening with the Power Platform. We can't wait to see you there.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Today, we are going to chat with, how do I typically start this thing off?
Chat within the chat. That's a really well said. Let me quote you on that.
I'm good. Just move on.
It was David.
Shocker.
That's not really what I wanted to say. What did I want to say, David?
Good question. Wow, putting me on a spot. No.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, bye. No, you hang up.
Hang up first.
No, you hang up.